Hello, I'm Tan the TC channel, and I know this is probably not, well, it is kind of relevant because of the whole uh, stop killing games thing, but I didn't even know this was a thing and had to look into it. I'm having trouble trying to find the actual terms of service. I would have to probably play the freaking game to even look at that, or maybe look at one of my Witcher games, probably The Witcher 3. But I didn't know that they had, and now somebody decides to start lawn mowing their goddamn lawn as I'm starting this up. This is just going to be a shorter stream, by the way. There we go. That'll take care of those freaking assholes deciding to mow their lawn right as I'm trying to do this. But they had a TOS that apparently had some interesting things about you destroying your copy of the game in a similar way Ubisoft said it in their TOS or their EULA. And I have stuff in the description too. So this was the first thing I ran into when looking at the Cyberpunk's main page. And the person says, downvoting for malicious TOS. This is not a live service game. And your new TOS that states you can terminate our access to this game for any reason is anti-consumer. That kind of also sounds like the Nintendo thing with them being able to brick up your new frickin' Switch 2. And then, where is it? I think it's on here. So CDPR violates human rights with their TOS, just so everyone is aware. Yada yada. Basically, it's the same thing, but there are some people who are saying like, "Oh, this isn't against your human rights," and they're being assholes themselves, ironically, by saying you have the right to be an a-hole. No, you should not have the right to be an asshole. Um, so frick off, you dickheads. But I looked up what the human rights are, and he's technically right. Where'd it go? Property, right there. Right to property, property ownership rights. You technically bought the game. It is your property. You probably have a receipt to it or whatever. It's on your profile because you clearly bought the damn thing. And you could technically say this is what it breaks. You could probably just as a joke say that it breaks some of the other freaking, uh, just to be silly, that it breaks some other rights. Let's see. There was what I thought would be funny to freaking equate it to. Like, where's the torture one? There's one. There was one about like oh, where is it? Because technically you could count it as torture because you're taking your game away and that's torture to you. No, but that's just there it is. Protection from inhumanity, because I think that is pretty inhumane. Take away your video games from you. Freedom from torture, cruel treatment. So, just as a joke. But yeah, I was trying to look up what their freaking TOS is, and I'm having trouble trying to even find it. I'm guessing I'm going to have to find it somewhere. um, I don't want to buy the game right now. Definitely not at the price that it's at. So frick that. And I think that's about everything. I didn't even know they did this. It's not exactly the same as how Ubisoft words it, but it's very close. It's probably closer to the Nintendo thing with the bricking your console thing or whatever from the sound of it. I I might have to check The Witcher 3 and see if the TOS pops up on there, if it says it on there. But I have to go on my PlayStation console and hopefully I can find it. But yeah, not cool. Not a cool thing. I already not a big fan of Cyberpunk. I do love The Witcher though. But if this is one of your rules and if it's still in place, because I don't know how old this is, because the actual that this thing is from like 2021, does it say? Yeah, this is from 2021 of February. So I don't know if this is still in place. Might want to check on that. Yeah, but it makes me cautious, especially some other EULA and TOS makes me cautious to read their stuff nowadays because of people like Ubisoft. Thanks, Ubisoft. But like, this is weird. Like they have the almost a similar thing way back then. When did this game launch? This game launched like not far from there because if COVID happened in like 20 the end of 2019 the 2020, uh then this was only like a year or two off from that, from when that happened. So technically, if this happened in 2021, and I hope they still don't have it in place, that's not a good thing. How did people defend cyberpunk and such with stuff like this? That is not good. That is not a good look, CDPR. You better still not have that on your TOS. That is kind of scummy. I don't know. Um, I don't know what to say. I guess there are some people who could probably bring out some things of why they are allowed to do that stuff, but it does seem kind of like a crappy thing to do or say, nonetheless. And then these people being rude, like, God, some of the community of Cyberpunk can be assholes sometimes, just like freaking calling him an a-hole, right up to be an a-hole. Just ridiculous. By the way, how does this game have freaking this positivity? That makes no sense. Makes no sense at all. Like, when this game originally came out, it did not run well at all. Also, can you stop playing the trailer in the background? And I don't understand how this raised to this. I've talked about Cyberpunk a lot in the past, and one of my biggest problems I've talked about, of course, is creativity. And you know the funny thing, I've been watching recent cyberpunk-based worlds. Like I was watching the Ghost of the Shell stuff, Dread. I already love stuff like Blade Runner and such. And like even those worlds stand out more as really cool, taking advantage of their unique style and design cyberpunk worlds, where I did not feel that same thing with the game because it overemphasized the punk side, but not the cyber part. Just like, once again, great reviewers that I think their videos still stand out and still nail exactly the problem because they're not attacking any glitches or stuff, even though they make jokes about them passingly back in the day. They still age well because the game still has the story and the characters that it does. And I think Manly Reviews video still ages well and is relevant to Cyberpunk even today. I think that Actman's video, just the one that's called Why is Cyberpunk So Bad? I still think that one ages well. I still think the beat 'em ups video on Cyberpunk ages well. The only parts that don't are maybe the glitchy parts, but even L321, another YouTuber has pointed out, there's still glitches going on in the game that make it on par with sometimes with the Bethesda game, ironically. So I just don't understand the love. I actually find Cyberpunk the most boring of the games. Like the clothing options are boring. It might as well be the Tom Clancy's Division of clothing options. This is a cyberpunk world. Even when they over advertise the frickin' word samurai, even on a samurai cola that they crossed over with Rockstar, they barely have samurai gear in the frickin' game. And a DLC shouldn't be the thing that holds a game up on its two legs to frickin' stand on its own. That should be the main game. The main game is still the trashy way it is with the story and such. And I've also talked about how like freaking the story should have took the Corpo Street Kid and Nomad options and had the story play out all the way with all three of those, and then have them like intertwine at some point or something. Instead of like it being the typical dialogue thing we've seen done before in many games, like freaking if you're corpo, you can just tell a guy, "Hey, I work here," and you can just walk on in casually. Like we've seen that stuff. That's the most you're gonna do with the dialogue options. Like that's so pathetic. The characters are designed really boringly. Yeah, freaking most of your characters have the glowing collar jacket. That speaks futuristic. Where's your freaking flying cars still? And when you're focused on having to paint cars as they're driving or like freeze time to do so, and then freaking monorails or trams, yeah, when I look at your freaking city that only looks nice from the outside, but when you're actually in it, it's freaking boring and lifeless. Yeah, great. I've already talked about how Johnny Silverhand technically hijacks most of the story and such from you, so you don't even really feel like you're that important character. You can also argue, ironically, the same thing I think Nostalgia Critic argued with the Wish movie, where technically you and Jackie stealing that device and his death is technically a result of you guys' fault. So it kind of feels like it has the same flaw. And when we've seen like people talk about the message of cyberpunks, like messages and stuff being these big revolutionary or like really cool things. I remember a YouTuber who was trying to do Cyberpunk versus New Vegas, and and they were like because the messages are better in the themes and stuff, and it's like it's telling the same themes we've seen like a million times. Robots the movie made a better of those themes than you did. And hell, when you have a corporation that's supposed to be evil and they don't do it right, hence once again you can watch Manly reviews for more in depth why that corporation sucks. But I'm going to add more here to what he said. But there's a couple of characters in the story that work for the corporation Arasaka, one of the worst freaking villains in a video game, uh, actually help you. And when you're seeing Johnny Silverhand being a terrorist dickhead, yet he's supposed to look like the good guy that you want to freaking uh, have a good ending to his story, it doesn't help. It does the opposite effect. It makes Johnny Silverhand look like the bad guy, but you're treating it like he's the good guy, that he should be the good guy by the end, but he looks like the bad guy. And then you got the freaking bad guy looking like the good guy because some of the people who work for the supposed bad guy are actually helping you out. And it's like, what the frick? You're freaking messing up your goddamn story and stuff. And then I gotta bring up another thing that Nostalgia Critic said in an old video of his, the Man of Steel review, where he said, it feels like the characters are all hit by the Nolan ray. They have to exposition, and make it seem all big and important. But it's not. It's actually more boring than a freaking like Christopher Nolan knows how to do dialogue a lot better than freaking CD Projekt Red with that stuff. They still do a good job with dialogue, and that's probably what tricks people into thinking it's so good, well written. uh, but man, does it still feel like really boring, dragged out exposition? A lot of it. They don't even do much. Like the reason stuff like Skyrim and Fallout stand out, like they have guilds and such that you get to learn about, you get to join or not join, maybe even kill entirely. Uh, you have nothing like that in Cyberpunk. Like they set up some of these gang members that exist in the universe, and you know some of these factions and corporations exist, but they don't do anything with them to have you, unless it's in the DLC, they don't do anything with them to have you participate or be a part of them. Wouldn't it be cool if, like, the beginnings of each of the games, like take Corpo for example, you you worked an office job, and it was just kind of the office job. You get your boss a coffee, all that crap, and then you work up to those guys who that landed their freaking shuttle or whatever, uh, to take like your Rainbow Six squad or something to take out a terrorist group or something. Wouldn't that be cool? Like you work your way to that. Guess what technically did that? Freaking Starfield. Starfield has that one Ryuku group or whatever they're called, where it does start out kind of like that, where you're doing like menial tasks like get me coffee, where's my paperwork, that crap. It does do it in a faster pace than something, and it probably needs to, not to bore the crap out of you. Then again, a lot of people are already bored by that game. But then you do work your way to like these sneaking missions, and these missions you go in, and you can even go guns a blazing if you want, even though they don't recommend that. But yeah, they technically did that, and that's just with using like a guild or whatever, the equivalent of a guild. And it's like, holy crap, just do that, but probably more fun, more and just paced out a lot better. But it's just funny how Starfield did something Cyberpunk should have done, even though I know people are going to argue that it shouldn't and it's perfect the way it is. I don't agree. Uh, and I feel like I hate to also reference this. I feel like the only reason people like those characters like Panam and such, is because they're just a hot piece of ass. There's nothing, and I hate to bring up the Princess and the Frog movie, this terrible animated movie, but it feels like the people have the same equivalent as that prince to how they think about this, some of the romance partners in Cyberpunk. Because they are some of the most boring characters to me. They're boringly designed, like tank tops and frickin' cargo pants and all that on Judy. I hate that same flipped over on one side, colorful hair, shaven on the other side. Like I see that haircut way too much in that game. Hell, even the female V has a version of that on the cover arts, or even in the trailers. It's just such a boring freaking haircut. I've seen a million times now. It's like the spiky freaking mohawk haircut as that which they also use. Um, it's just getting very tiring to look at. But I'd rather take the spiky haircut over that one. That one's just freaking dumb. And it's like, oh, she gets betrayed. What character doesn't? What freaking series doesn't have a betrayal storyline? I don't care about her betrayal storyline. It's freaking boring. Um, Actually, I'd want to betray her just because she's a freaking bitch. But like, it feels like that one scene from Princess Frog where the princess says something like, "Is there anything else other than beauty that you like me for?" And princess is like, "What else is there?" Feels like that people look at the freaking characters with that mindset. That's not why we love characters from stuff like Mass Effect, like Tali or Garrus. That is not why we love those characters. Those characters have great story development, motivation, and don't have to spout freaking the Christopher Nolan Ray exposition, except Christopher Nolan still knows how to do it better than freaking. It's more like Zack Snyder hit them, if anything. Um, his is not fun. Or Ridley Scott, even. I would use like Prometheus or Alien Covenant. And then they use the exposition dialogue during like car riding scenes, and a lot of the car riding scenes are mostly an NPC driving you around. So it's freaking boring as hell. Like, didn't GTA at least let you drive the car most of the time? To drive around a freaking NPC, at least you're doing something. I know there's some times in Cyberpunk where you are the driver, but not always. And it doesn't immediately start out that way. Like, Jackie's like one of the first people to drive you around. I think one of the reasons too with Cyberpunk City is the main apartment building that you start out in. They actually put effort into like what's going on there, but once you get outside of that building, everything's just so freaking lifeless and boring. Um, it's just such a boring. It doesn't have the same interactivity or like random encounters and stuff that like freaking other open world games have, from Obsidian to Bethesda. I don't get why CD Projekt Red is also held up as one of the greats when it only has like one series that it's truly known for, and it didn't become that well known until the third game, just like with Dark Souls. But even with that, freaking FromSoft still has more games that they're known for. With freaking Elden Ring, their DLC, Night Rain, Armored Core 6, Sekiro, Bloodborne, Demon Souls, all sorts of stuff. And it was technically when uh, Dark Souls 3 came out that people started to notice them, but you still had like Sekiro and Elden Ring after that. That's two games. When Cyberpunk came out, it was known as a piece of trash for like 3 years until they finally did some fixes to make it a more competent game. But that's only been for like a year or two now. So it's been known as a trash game longer than it's been known as a good game at all, or confident game. And I still think there's problems with it, even today. I'm hoping that the sequel is better. Hell, I would have liked a JRPG version of the frickin' anime better than what we got. Because it was trying to be more realistic looking, it ruined the design. It kind of made the designs of the characters really boring. There's only like one or two characters in the main game that stand out, where the rest of them have boring clothes or wearing that same stupid jacket you see everywhere. Uh, or frickin' Johnny Silverhand just being Keanu Reeves-ified Winter Soldier. Like, even the freaking cybernetics look freaking ugly and boring. Like, whenever you're designing your character, I will say that at least games like Baldur's Gate 3 and such have borrowed from that customization, that character customization, but goddamn, it's like when you get to the actual cybernetics of that game, it freaking looks ugly. The freaking metal lining going through your body and stuff, it looks so stupid and terrible. They just did not try hard enough with stuff. And I don't care how many freaking comparison videos try to show off that the game does certain things with physics and such better than others or whatever. Doesn't freaking matter. That's such a menial thing to all the other things mentioned, whether it's by me, Manly Reviews, Actman, Beat 'em Ups, whatever. L321, you name it. Just freaking just a mediocre game, and that's the worst thing you can be. This kind of reminds me of the frickin' other quote that Nostalgia Critic used for Wish, where it was from the Never-Ending Story. No, it wasn't a hole. A hole would be something. It was nothing. That's what I feel about Cyberpunk. It's nothing. It's one big fricking nothing. I'm sorry to freaking rant. I just had to talk about a Dark Knight video where I have my ranting moments, but I feel like it's more deserved here because Cyberpunk is not a masterpiece, and it did start out like freaking hot piece garbage, and yet it feels like people overhype it. Like, even frickin' stuff like the complaints people have about other overhyped games like Final Fantasy VII and Resident Evil 4 and such can't even measure to how frickin' overhyped Cyberpunk was. It's frickin' ridiculous. And how much it just does not deserve it. Even now, I don't think it still deserves it. I do hope, I do want hope for it in the future, for it to have a great sequel. But for right now, the game we still have, whether the DLC is good or not, I still think it has a lot of problems with that main game. Like, I don't play Oblivion's DLC, Shivering Isles, just because I like only that part of the game. I like other things. I love the Dark Brotherhood. I do enjoy the main storyline. I enjoy the characters within it. I like the world. I love exploring it. It's not my favorite Elder Scrolls, but that main game I still enjoy a lot. I just don't get that same feeling with Cyberpunk. In Cyberpunk, uh, there can be moments of fun, but then again, you could say the same thing about Fallout 76, even when that game first came out. There were people who can still have fun with that. Hell, there are people who can have fun with the other notoriously bad games. And I'm not saying that Cyberpunk is necessarily one of those, but Cyberpunk's just so mediocre in my eyes. From the creativity and designs of the outfits being boring to the creativity of the world being dull, to it focusing too much on the punk rather than the cyber part. Even the cyber stuff that's cool that they have feels like it's borrowed from other cyberpunk stuff or even other games that aren't cyberpunk. If I had to recommend a cyberpunk series other than like if we're talking movies and comic books and stuff like Dread, Blade Runner, Ghost in a Shell, uh, I would recommend Deus Ex over Cyberpunk any day. Hell, I even feel like Mankind Divided is just a better cyberpunk game than Cyberpunk was, ironically. And it feels kind of like a disgrace to the tabletop, where something like Baldur's Gate 3 is the exact opposite. It's actually creative, well-defined world with awesome characters. I just don't get that same vibe or feeling from Cyberpunk. And why can't Cyberpunk be in third person other than when you're in vehicles? And vehicles also just look freaking boring. Never mind the fact they can't freaking fly and that mods are still only really on PC until they're finally freaking not. Uh, and I think co-op would actually made me care about Cyberpunk more. But we should like the cars look like everyday cars we see today. Like it feels like they tried to make some things feel like they were in the future, but other things not. And Manly Reviews also brought this out where it just feels like they did parts like symmetrical headlights just to make them ugly for the sake of being ugly. They didn't actually do it to serve a purpose, which they should. It's just ugly for the sake of being ugly once again. It's dumb, it's dull, it's boring. I just do not get people's love for it. And I know I do think that like and I try to mention this every time. I know I come across opposite and it definitely sounds like it because I'm saying I don't get people, but I seriously don't. How do I not mention that without feeling that way? It's like I don't understand. But I do think if you love something, you continue loving it, but don't be a dickhead about it. Uh, but yeah, like I'd like to know what those things are. I just don't get it. I have played through the whole game. I know some people have even come up and said in comments, you clearly are somebody who hasn't played that. I freaking played the whole game like twice, bro. Frick off. I even tried to fool around with the open world. Frick off with that. I know what I'm talking about, and I know how I personally feel about the game. You may not personally feel the same way, but I know how I personally feel about it. And I've shared my feelings a dozen times already. I don't need you to tell me what I already fricking know, or what I already fricking feel, I should say. But if you do love something, continue loving it. I also find that ironically, the comic books and even the anime um, freaking tried to just have more interesting worlds, but they also did try to push cyberpunk. They really spend more into the advertising of the game than they did the freaking game itself sometimes. It feels like it's just freaking ridiculous how much they try to advertise it and push it. Maybe that's why so many people love it, is so many people got attracted by the advertisement of the freaking game. But either way, I never got attached to cyberpunk. I actually feel like cyberpunk kind of made me like the genre less, which is just feels a shame because there's so many great cyberpunk things, yet I feel like I like the genre less and will return to those other franchises less because cyberpunk felt like it kind of disgraced it in a way. Hell, even the tabletop that it was kind of based on or whatever. But yeah. Um, oh, and one more thing I should probably mention is I love how people make fun of like Bethesda games for having the obvious like something saying, "Oh, this is a romance option because it says romance next to the dialogue." Cyberpunk does the same thing basically. You got color-coded dialogue. The blue dialogue is just question stuff, and then the yellow dialogue is to continue, but it's like I guess choices. And then you got it's kind of does choices fakeish the same way Outer Worlds does, the first one. And then you got the freaking either symbols, which Dragon Age games as well as Mass Effect Andromeda does, and next to the dialogue, as well as it'll have the words Corpro, Street Kid, or Nomad next to them. So it still technically does the same thing. I love how people try to pass off the dialogue system as being something that's big and revolutionary or influential and awesome, and yet it does the same slop. Anyways, I hope you found something interesting from this video. I will see you next time. If you did enjoy, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Leave your comments below, and I will see you next time. Sorry that the rest of the video was just this freaking background, but